Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
So the New York Knicks and Leon Rose are interested in the Philadelphia 76ers general manager Elton Brand, according to the New York Daily News. Based off of how I feel the Sixers think about Elton Brand, and because of the contract, I don't think it means much. That's great that you are interested in him if the Sixers were to fire him after the season, which I don't see happening. Or that's awesome that you feel he can do the job for your organization in the New York Knicks, but I don't see that occurring. It feels like the 76ers are very happy with what Elton Brand brings to the table. He's a younger general manager. He's in his early 40s, 41 to be exact. He was recently in the league. There's something to be said about his communication with other people involved in trades. When you talk about players and trying to acquire free agents, this guy knows what it's like to be in the league. He had a respected career. He was a respected veteran. There's something to be said about his presence, the way he communicates, just the way he carries himself. That means a lot as a general manager, and I don't know if people realize how important that is when it comes to that side of the business. Talking to players, talking to agents, making calls to other GMs who know him as well. It just means so much. And a lot of times when I look at how people feel about certain players or certain organizations in the city, I realize that fans look so heavily into their prized possession, which is the logo they root for. But there's also how many other teams in each league. It's important to put it into context. Where does this GM sit compared to other GMs? And I feel like Elton Brand, because of his aggressiveness, I know he doesn't have a lot of years in this position, so it's not like I can sit back with my feet up and be so comfortable that this guy will make every great move and you don't have to really double guess what he does. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm not going on the extreme and really supporting Elton Brand to that level. But I'm not going to sit here and bash him because of some moves that he made and the moves that he has made to this point. He is aggressive, and when I look around the league and I look at where organizations are and where certain NBA franchises are, he is not at the bottom of the league. I love his aggressiveness. I want my GM to have his foot on the gas. I want my GM to not be afraid to make moves. How many times have people freaked out about Howie Roseman? What's he doing? He's not getting this guy. He's not getting that guy. He's sitting back on his hands. And those same people are disgusted with what Elton Brand has done. Elton Brand, to this point, it seems like the Al Horford contract was a swing and a miss. Tobias Harris gives you 20 points a night. He might not have that killer instinct, and I feel like that's fair to say, and you can totally see that by now. He's supposed to be your third option. And when you have two superstars, which we are counting on Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to be, you go out and overpay for a third guy, which he did in Tobias Harris, and he's giving you 20 points per game. My theory on it is, if you are waiting for Tobias Harris to be that guy to take over games, you're screwed. That needs to be Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. That's their job. Their job is to be that guy. Tobias Harris was overpaid, sure, but that's what all teams do in this league. The Milwaukee Bucks overpay Chris Middleton insanely. I mean, really, it's the same exact thing. They have Giannis. They overpay to keep Chris Middleton because they lost Malcolm Brogdon. It is the same scenario with what the Sixers did. They lost Jimmy Butler, so what did they do? They overpaid to keep Tobias, but he's your third option. He's your third option. It's fine. The only move that I really criticize is the Al Horford move. It doesn't look great right now, but I feel like he has the balls to try and make something happen, to try and make a trade, to try and package something up, or he moves on from the coach, and from there, it's a different story with the roster right now in terms of how they utilize everybody. To be honest with you, I think the biggest problem with the Sixers is more above Elton Brand. It's more of the ownership, and it's more of the higher front office people than it is the general manager. The view on Elton Brand just really confuses me. I can compare it to Ben Simmons and Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz has a bad game on a Sunday, trade Carson Wentz. Trade him, get rid of him. He stinks. He's awful. We should have kept Nick Foles. If Ben Simmons has a bad game, this guy can't shoot. He will never work. This team will never win a championship. Trade him. Trade him for a guard who can shoot. We need point guards who can shoot. So if Elton Brand had a bad decision to bring in Al Horford, who I will always say at the time I liked, now that I have hindsight, I realize it's a tougher fit than I expected it to be, but it was a logical move at the time based off of needing a backup big. I will always support the move at the time. Hindsight, it's a lot easier to rip apart somebody for it. I do see now that it's not as great of a fit that I expected it to be. So he didn't make the best move with Al Horford. But because he makes one mistake, it doesn't mean he makes every single mistake. I will support every move for the most part that he has made except for Al Horford, and that's with hindsight. And is that fair? You can argue that that is fair. You can argue that that's not fair. But sitting here today, I don't like the Al Horford move. Giving up Dario Saric, who was once labeled untouchable, and Robert Covington to snag Jimmy Butler. It didn't work out. Okay, it didn't work out. And I know that there was a mutual partnering away, if that even makes sense. They mutually agreed to move on from each other at the end. It didn't work. Okay. You can totally live with giving up on Robert Covington and Dario Saric. Okay, those guys are not players to really push you into the NBA title, into the NBA championship. So who cares that the Jimmy Butler thing didn't work? I love the aggressiveness by Elton Brand. I will support that move any day of the week. Landry Shamet, all right, nice player. You can find that. And that trade was for Tobias Harris. And when you look at what they did with Mikal Bridges for Zhaire Smith to get that extra first-round pick, to trade that extra first-round pick, I'm sorry, I do not mind what Elton Brand did. I feel like it's an overreaction based off of Al Horford not working to the level that we expected it to from the jump. That move deserves criticism. I don't think it's a fireable offense after what he has done so far to this point in his young general managing career. I think it's actually bright. I love the fact that he has balls. I think that there is value in having balls. If you swing and miss on one, that's fine. But if you end up hitting on another that's magnificent because of the same strategy, the aggressive strategy, well, you got to give him praise for that as well. And then look at what he's done in the draft. Matisse Thybulle has been a stud. I know he's hit a wall, and I've been on him for hitting a wall, even though I know that that's just human nature in the NBA, coming from the Pac-12, playing limited games. It's totally different playing 82 games, even though they didn't even get to play the full season. But you're going up against bigger opponents. You're going up against men who are 30-plus years old with 200-plus pounds on him. It's a totally different ball game. He hit a rookie wall. But overall, we can all agree that Matisse Thybulle looks to be a really fun project and a really fun piece moving forward for this organization. How many fans have been screaming about players like Mariel Shayok? He's been tearing up the G League. Now, I don't know what he's going to turn into. I'm not claiming that he's going to be some player who is unbelievable. But for a late pick like that, late in the second round, can't we all agree that he's at least a little bit intriguing? And a lot of you have been screaming for him to be playing now, even though that's not the right move. How about you look at his drafting? I think his drafting has been very solid. I support Elton Brand. I do. I do support him. So, Leon Rose is interested. He's a new president there with the New York Knicks. The Knicks are a dumpster fire. It seems like every single person that they bring in fails. Every person they bring in is awful. It's the New York Knicks. Think about how much money they are worth. Think about how much money they had in free agency, and they weren't even able to land Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant. And those two guys go to the Brooklyn Nets, which probably felt even worse inside of that organization. We're talking about the New York Knicks. They have been dreadful for so damn long. I don't even remember when they were worthy of watching. And I mean just watching. Average even below average would be good at this point for them. But they are at the bottom of the bottom. It's disgusting to watch to see that logo fail. As a Sixers fan, I find it funny. I find it hilarious. We tanked. It was tough. But as I stated in yesterday's podcast, they tanked for 3 seasons, even though it is perceived that it was 500 years. It was 3 seasons. They snapped out of it. They win 28 when Joel Embiid was healthy and Ben Simmons didn't play. And then the years after that, you're talking about 50-plus wins and playoff wins. And now the city's going to blow up because the expectations are NBA title. It's not that way for the New York Knicks. So I'm bringing that up because is it a good thing that the Knicks are interested? Is it a good thing that a team who is failing miserably, one of the ugliest scenes in New York Knicks history, in NBA history for a specific franchise, is it good that they are interested in the man that you have in a specific spot? The overreaction would be, no, it's not good. It's not good at all. You see them. You see the moves they make. It never works. So why would you think that they are now targeting a man who knows what he's doing if every man that they target is absolutely horrible at their job? I feel like that's the overreaction part. This is the first move for Leon Rose, and it's not like Leon Rose has a background that you can support and say, this guy knows what he's doing. He's an NBA guy. He knows what he's doing. He is an NBA guy. He's been an agent. He's connected with a lot of people. He knows a lot of great players. I talk about what that means for free agency earlier with Elton Brand. Maybe that works for the Knicks. I don't care about that part of it. I'm bringing up Leon Rose being new to this role in terms of he doesn't have past moves that can support going after a guy like Elton Brand and say he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's not a Phil Jackson. That's what I'm trying to relate it to. With that being said, it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about just because Elton Brand is on their radar. I think it shows value that he has interest around the league. He still has time on the contract. And when I talk about the Sixers, there are plenty of times where I show how much I hate the way that they talk to the media, the way you have to dissect the little things when they speak. You really can't take it for what it is on the surface because they just give you what they want to hear and they always sugarcoat things. They never tell you the full story, and that is the case a lot of the time with the Sixers. With this, though, and what they came out with statements about this, I feel like they truly mean it. And this was a team source who was quoted. So it's not like it technically could have been a front office member. It could have been somebody really high up with the Sixers. My point, though, is it's not as if the 76ers released a statement themselves after the New York Daily News put out the story about Leon Rose. So the team source says the team is very happy with this hard work, mentioned Brand's leadership, strong working relationships with players, agents, and executives around the league. I don't think that that's full of crap. Most of the times, I think whatever comes out of Sixers media's mouths and people PR, it could be crap. I feel you can sense the relationship, though, between the Sixers and Elton Brand. At this point, I get why people would be frustrated. I get why people don't like the name Elton Brand because they look at the contract. Or I'm sorry. Well, yes, they do look at the contract. I was going to say the construction of the roster or the structure of everything that went down. They're not happy with what the product was on the court this season. And I see why they weren't happy because it was ugly at times on the road against bad teams, yada, yada, yada. We know the story. It's probably not even great to think about that story at the moment because it was ugly. Just because this season has been a little hard to watch, I'm not out on Elton Brand. I feel like it's too early in his tenure to just be out. He has time left with the Sixers. There's no way the Sixers just allow him to go speak to the Knicks, allow him to communicate with people. There's just no way. I can't see it happening. One thing I like about Elton, too, is since he played in the league and he knows how this all works, There's so much value in that. I talk about this all the time. It is a players' league. The players run the entire show. Really, it's the truth. The crazy people run the asylum. That's how it works in the NBA. Right or wrong, it's reality. He has been involved in that, and now he's on both sides. So when he is talking to agents, when he is talking to players, he is sitting on his side of the desk being like, yo, I've been there, man. I've been there. I've experienced this. I get that side. And people feel the connection. You can't just throw in the trash that there's nothing behind that. There is something behind that. Now, I'm not living and dying on Elton Brand's hill here. There's plenty of people who would be good in that role. It's just too early for me. I haven't seen enough out of Elton Brand, enough piss-poor moves to say it's time to get rid of this guy. He knows nothing. I think he does know a lot. I think he understands the game of basketball. I think he does well in terms of not being afraid. He'll go out there and he'll make a move that he believes in, and it might be aggressive, and that's fine by me. I'm all in on an aggressive GM who's not afraid to go out there. It looks ugly right now. With some money, with some guys tied up, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he maneuvers out of this. Now, it might cost him a bit. It might cost him a tad. He might have to move a pick here and there that he might not want to. But I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets out of it. Or if he moves on from the head coach and it's utilized differently. This whole entire roster is utilized differently. A new voice can change a lot. And I think after 7 years, I've been through this with Brett Brown, a new voice might be needed, and it can totally change how things play out. And if that is the case, and the Sixers look totally different next year, nobody talks about Elton Brand. Nobody talks about, oh, look at that contract now. It just gets flown under the radar, and it's no longer discussed. Well, I don't think that's fair. I just think it needs more time. That's all I'm saying. It needs more time before the verdict is out on Elton Brand. The overreaction of this guy needs to go, he's disgusting, he's the worst general manager in the world, that is the same as wanting to trade Ben Simmons, wanting to trade Carson Wentz after a bad game. People were ready to fire Doug Peterson last season. There was a time where things got ugly, the locker room was lost. Oh, what is Doug Peterson? He's not a great X's and O's guy. Well, what's going on here? Maybe we should trade Doug Peterson. Frank Reich, he's the guy. He was the special mind. Let's get rid of Doug. Take a deep breath. This season was frustrating. It was hard to watch. It was hard to fathom at times. Truthfully, it wasn't pretty, and nobody's sitting here trying to convince you that it was pretty. But because of a bad season, it doesn't mean the world is falling. The sky is falling. The world is over. To be honest with you, I don't see Elton Brand as some pathetic GM. He's not super insanely experienced in terms of how much time he has put in. He's new to the NBA level. Look at what he has done throughout his NBA career. Look at what he has done so far as GM, not just the contract part of it, but also the side of drafting. Logically think about this. Logically think about the moves. Think about where they were. I was just watching 2018 highlights in the playoffs. You had Robert Covington and Dario Saric. Then he makes a move. At one point last year, we were talking about a team with Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and JJ Redick. That's lethal. Think about how he totally flipped that roster. One team is, hey, they're a playoff team, but they're not actually serious. The next one was, there's a significant amount of talent on the team. And they ran into a Kawhi Leonard, and the best player on the team, the best superstar on the court when it comes to a 7-game series, normally wins. It is statistically proven. It is a fact. And the Sixers lost on the bouncer in Game 7 on the road. It was a horrible moment to watch for Philadelphia sports history. You can't deny, though, that the roster is way more talented than it was when he got here based off of the moves that he made. I just need to clarify once again, because I know how this works. When you hear one thing that you don't enjoy or that you don't agree with, it's almost as if all the other points go away and nothing else matters. I'm not claiming that Elton Brand is the best GM in the world. My point is, it's too early to give up on him. I think he is aggressive and he has good traits. He has traits that good GMs have in this league. He understands the league. He's been on both sides. He knows what it's like to be a player. He knows what it's like to have these connections. He's very well respected. And when you look around the league, he fits in with everybody else. He's not an outlier to the point where he is so horrible, you can't keep this guy anymore. It's just too early to tell in his GM tenure. It's not time to give up on him just yet. And I don't think that the 76ers will give up on him just yet. There's plenty of people, I'm sure, that are out there that are capable of doing a good job. You have to go out and find those people. I just don't feel like that conversation needs to happen yet. You need to let this play out more. You need to let him work some more magic. Let him be more aggressive. His aggressive moves have made this team better in terms of talent. He got himself in a funk with Al Horford. You take away that contract, nobody complains about how much Tobias Harris is getting paid. You got more money to work with. That move, tough. I'm not sold, though, that this is just a dumpster fire all around. Things can happen. Moves can be made. Whether it's moving on from him, packaging something up that's nice to a team that needs a center, a starting center that doesn't have a Joel Embiid, so it makes more sense for them. You might have to give up a little bit, but so be it. If that's the case, if that's what it takes to get rid of that contract, maybe Elton Brand does it. Or maybe it's moving on from Brett Brown, getting a new head coach in here, getting a new philosophy, running more pick and roll stuff, just a totally different scheme and a new voice. It all comes down to a new voice because there will be a spark, and that spark will just have guys engage differently based off of someone else being there, a new presence involved. They will want to prove to this guy that they are capable of being the players that they are capable of being. So with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts down below on this news that Leon Rose and the New York Knicks are interested in Elton Brand. Thank you so much. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.